Well, hi, everybody. So I'm Katie Noble. I am a CVE board member. I know some of you. I don't know some others of you, but I'd love to know you. I've been with the CVE board for about 8 years. I joined the CVE board when I was an employee at CISA, and I was the CVE sponsor. I currently am a director of product security incident response at Intel Corporation. I've been with Intel for about 6 years. I'm really excited to hear you guys' feedback today. So we're going to do a little listening session. You're going to need your phone or a browser to do this. And I think, Lisa, you said you might be able to take some notes if we have any notes come in. I am operating by myself, so it'll be hard for me to take notes and run the session.
No, I'm here and going to help you. And we might also mention that it's going to be similar to yesterday's listening session. So if you were here yesterday, feel free to answer the questions in a totally different way.
Absolutely. 100%. So we used to do these listening sessions a couple of years ago, and we thought it'd be a good idea to start them up again and hear feedback from our stakeholders. So the session rules basically tell us the truth. I can take it. I spent 4 years in Afghanistan. People shot at me. So trust me, I can take it. But with that, the truth sometimes hurts. So please be kind. It's never what we say. It's always how we say it. And don't be shy. So we'll roll into this now. Okay. Okay, so you'll need to get your phone or a browser out and log into this. Now, this does not track anything, and your responses, I can't see your. Once we're done with this, I can't see your name, so it doesn't save your feedback's anonymous. So I can start seeing people coming in. Looks like we got 35, 36, 39, 40. Ooh, perfect. We're rolling along. Good. We have 118 people in this session. So perfect. So we'll give it a minute and let things roll along. 53, 53. Wonderful. And like Lisa said, we did, Jen and Lisa did a very similar listening session yesterday. So if you did participate in that, we'd love for you to participate again now that you've had some time to percolate on some of those questions. And if you did not see the session yesterday, then wow, you're in for a fun adventure. Okay, as we keep going in here, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. But what I will do is I will drop this into the chat. And so this is the code that you'll need to access minty.com. Go. So for those that join late, you should be able to do that. Perfect. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Okay, so as a little test, let's get started here. What is your name? And you should note at this point that if you're using your phone, it will come up on your phone and you'll be asked this question and you can operate your phone or your browser. I've actually never done it from browser, so you guys will have to tell me how the browser experience is. Wonderful. So I see Pete, I see Dave, I see Megan, Alex, Marcus, a happy participant. Somebody going by my name. It's nice to see you, my name. I'm also here. Let's see. Tomo is here. Kevin, 404, name not found. Fantastic. Nicely done. Nicely done. Nicely done. Got several Nicks in the house, apparently. Got it easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Perfect. And so what I'm looking at right now is I'm actually watching how many responses versus how many participants are in the room, because I don't want to skip over anybody if anyone's having little technical difficulties. So once we get to critical mass, that's when I move forward, just so you know. believe we have a little bit of an abbreviated session today. We had 60 minutes, but I think we're down to 45 minutes. So we will try to keep things moving. All right. So now that we have a familiarity with the program and how the Mentimeter works, we'll go ahead and get into the CVE listening session. So kind of a demographic question here. We kind of like to get an idea of the room. So about how many CVEs do you or your company or your organization produce per year? Okay, good. We got some big players in the house. Three 500 and aboves. Nice. Okay, all right. 20 gets 25. 1 through 10's good. Perfect. Like we got a lot of really good experience in the room. It's fantastic. Right, so I haven't gone through and created a CVE manually in a very long time. So I'm interested in how it goes these days. You guys will have to tell me. All right. Okay. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. I'm going to ask folks at a certain point to come off of mute. So just so you know, probably going to do that well, I will do that in a little bit. All right, we'll go to the next slide. And then so the next question we have, again, kind of a demographic question. We just sort of want to understand what tool do you mainly use to create CVEs? Do you have an in-house tool that you use? We at Intel have an in-house tool we created. Do you use Vulnogram? Vulnogram is very popular. CVE lib, yeah, good. Art, I just saw your comment in the chat. Good call out. It's create CVE records, not create vulnerabilities. If I was creating some vulnerabilities, I think that's well, yeah, that's a little different of a situation, isn't it? All right.
We probably all do a bit of that as well, though, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, if you build products,
Yeah.
I did have an executive at one point tell me, I pay millions of dollars on this bug bounty program. When am I going to start seeing these tickets go down? And I didn't really know what to say to that. Thankfully, my boss jumped in and said, when we stop building products, we'll start seeing the tickets go down, which I thought was a very risky move, but my boss is a little bit of a trendsetter, so that's okay. All right. So mostly I think that folks are using Vulnogram, which is really great. I know there's been a lot of time and effort put into Vulnogram, so that's pretty awesome. All right. And then the second one, obviously homegrown. That's what we use at Intel. So I'm seems pretty consistent. Awesome. All right. We're going to start the conversation with how do you feel about the CVE program? I like to get a good feel in the room by how do you feel about the CVE program? And then we'll go through and talk about it and go from there. Okay. All right. So awesome. And don't be shy. This is the moment to let it out. $47 out of 71. Getting a lot of thumbs up, which I think is kind of weird, but all right. That's okay. All right. 48. I'm starting to see taper off here. So I think most folks, it appears, feel pretty okay about the program. So that's good. We have some some kind of in the middles, which is to be expected. Security therapy, absolutely. Alex puts in the into the meeting chat. 100%. I should probably say that I've been in tech now for, I don't know, 12 years, something along those lines. But my background's not actually in tech at all. I'm a behavioral analyst by trade. I went to school for behavioral therapy. So and in behavioral analysis and international relations. So I find that when working with security researchers, the tech background helps me very little. The therapy and psychology background helps me quite a lot. So yes, security therapy. That's what we're doing. All right, and we're gathering real-time feedback as well. So very important business. All right, so I think most folks feel okay about the program. That's good. That's good to hear. As somebody who sits on the CVE board, I know that we are constantly thinking to ourselves, what can we do to make this program better? How can we enable features and make things smoother and less friction for our users? And how do we modernize and keep up with the times? And so it's good to hear that most folks are feeling pretty okay about the program. That's good. I like to hear that. And if you're not feeling okay about the program, you can always come to me and tell me about it privately if you like, and we can take that from there. Hey, Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say, people can throw in the chat we're always willing to get feedback.
Absolutely.
What can we do better? What would change your okay response to never been better?
We're absolutely. We're gonna put that into the. There's actually a couple questions on that once we get into the open discussion part. And so part of the reason that I use this tool when I do facilitation events is because it lets me be able to talk to you and keep kind of an idea of what's going on, and so that I can go back and reference it later. So yeah, absolutely, that's what we're gonna do. And I think we've got 2 more of these little questions. I'm going to go through this really quickly. We did have a question about what do you think the biggest problem facing CVE is? And then I think we have 1 more of these kind of questions before we get into open discussion that's talking about data. Okay, and I believe this is a rank choice. So I think you can actually rank which how you feel about it from the ranking perspective. So data quality and accuracy seems to be a big one. Okay, balkanization, fragmentation, good. Funding, yeah, governance, CVE counting rules. Congratulations, Art. The CVE counting rules are on the bottom of the stack right now. I know we put a lot of time into that.
Oh, thank goodness. That means our effort worked. It's fixed. All right.
I think at one point when we did one of these sessions, it was near the top. So yes, very good. Okay. Very pleased about that. Very pleased about that. Awesome. Right. Yeah, so I think some of the biggest problems, these are the ones that we highlighted. I'm sure there are more problems, but kind of trying to get a general idea. The counting rules has historically been an issue, but Art and company spent a very long time kind of going through. The strategic working group spent many hours going through and trying to update those rules. Data quality and accuracy is still one of those big things. I know that the previous talk was talking about, Pete specifically called out containerization and the explosion of data. How do we deliver good quality and accuracy so that we can make sure that the program is able to deliver useful information? So what we really need to be able to do is be able to deliver risk-based decision-making information to a customer at the end of the day, or a user. I say customer, but ultimately I'm meaning an end user at the end of the day. So data quality seems to be the top of the top. All right, technical modernization. This has been one of my big things that I've been very, I wouldn't call it quite a vendetta, but technical modernization is something I would really am pushing for. I'd love to see some good modernization, and I know we've been working really hard to do that. Our friends at MITRE have been doing a fantastic job trying to work with the community to get the program to be as least friction as possible. So really great job. And then of course we always see the balkanization funding. I know that that's kind of the elephant in the room. I won't get into it here, but I know that that's something on the top of people's mind, the transparency as well. So I would bucket the balkanization funding and transparency and governance I know those are things that are on the top of people's minds. So thank you for your feedback on that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Okay, so the data challenge. This is a open-ended question. And so I'd like folks to take just a minute and think about it. When we had our last slide there, we said data quality is a big concern. And so from that, I would say, what are the things that are on your mind when it comes to data, data accuracy, data quality? How do we fix it? What can we do? So I see, will software ever be self-healing as vulnerabilities are identified, or must the burden of prioritization live forever? That's a big one, yeah. Consistency due to a missing asset, things like CPE standardization, wrong CVSS scores. Yep. I'm not sure. So here's the point where I'm going to ask folks to, if you're willing to come off of your mute and tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking here. So the person who put, will software ever be self-healing? Would you mind coming off of mute and just telling me a little bit more about what you're thinking there? No? Okay. I'll move on to the next person. Let's see. The CVE program must evolve to become the definitive source of truth for vulnerability information rather than continuing to rely on the NVD for heavy lifting of analysis and enrichment. So whoever put that into the tool, would you mind telling me a little bit more about what you're thinking there? Can they come off of mute? Lisa?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They can, but they might not want to.
Okay. Then we're going to have a very quiet conversation. Would anybody else like to comment on some of the things that you're seeing here put forward? Consistency due to missing assets, things like CPE, CVSS scores being incorrect. I see focus on data needed for global distributed architecture. Oh, Alex, I just saw you came off of mute.
I did, and I'm also aligning to your standard and dropping my note in. Hold on a sec. Yeah, so here's my question is around like getting started and getting better. Okay.
Yeah.
So like when I came to Qualys, I had not run a PCERT before. I'd been a CISO before. I'd done a lot of incident response before. I had a lot of experience, and like you, I also worked at DHS, and so like I had context and passion, right? I didn't really know how to get started, and so I had to learn how to do that, and the learning was not very easy, effective, or helpful in some cases. Also, I've heard from a lot of others in my role that they know they have the facility of CVE, which is great, but they don't feel like they have a playbook to understand how to use it and how to get better. I guess my wondering is like, is there, there's a lot of tribal knowledge, there's a lot of people who know a lot of things.
Yeah.
But do we actually have a framework for how we want, like an opinion on like, here's how you go from 0 to 1, and how you go from 1 to 2 and 3 to 4 and so on and so forth in doing the jobs to be done that we want people to do with the instrument we're providing them?
Interesting. So what I'm thinking you're saying is less about how do you actually write CVEs and more about how do you utilize the information to secure your network.
Yeah, or yes, that could be, I think that's part of it. Also, another part could be like, hey, here's how we see people do a great job of communicating problems to the market, right? So you take a CVE, great, what comes next, right? Or like, this is how we see people effectively build a data pipeline to automate their way towards success. More like, help me understand what's the secret sauce that I'm missing. So I feel like we do a fine job, but I know we're low maturity. The problem I have is I don't know how to get better, and I bet that's not a me problem. I bet that's a problem that's felt by a lot of others.
I think you're probably right. I think that's actually a really good call out. Kind of a how to not necessarily how to actually, oh, Dave's going to pipe up now, but I think that's a really good call out. I think there's an opportunity there to actually sort of sit down and develop a guide for that. Something that can be maybe a workshop or something that's a living document that people can just reference. That would be, I think, pretty helpful. Dave, do you want to pipe up? Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I'll just end on this. I got a really cool piece of advice from product managers in a different regard. When I came into my my role, they were like, you need to have a plan for your first 90 days. And they referred me to this great article by a guy named Gibson Biddle. And it's your first 90 days as a product manager. Here's what you should do. What about your first 90 days about, aligning to this new way of working? Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to speak over you.
No, I mostly just wanted to call out your earlier presentation when you were talking about like being outcome based, right? It sounds like what you're asking for is for us to define, like, if you want to achieve a certain set of outcomes, how do you participate in CVE to do that?
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
I think that's a really good call out. That's something that I think that we should take up and look at. Perfect. Okay, so I'm seeing some more inputs here, and it looks like more data does not equal more better. I agree. Let's see. Most CVEs are created by CNAs that are not suppliers. Okay, yeah, I could definitely see that. The limits of CVE data, but the demand to enrich and use the data is growing. That's true. Yeah, CVE was created with 3 fields: the identifier, the comment, and the URL. And then as we've moved forward in the last 25 years, the needs has definitely increased. Okay, missing CPE definition. Okay, awesome. In the essence of time, I'm going to move forward. These are all really, really great points, and I really appreciate you all taking the time to put them in. It's really good. Okay. Reset ourselves a little bit from a conversation question to a multiple choice question. Which of the below types of information should be core and consistent for every CVE record? So CVE ID, obviously, description, affected system, severity, mitigation, link to an advisory. Correct. And you can vote more than once, I believe, on this question. Of course, CVE ID, top of the list. Perfect. That's the point of the CVE program, right? To be able to identify vulnerabilities and to be able to say this is this and not that. So good. CWE's got a little call out there. Confirmation of exploitation. I love that. That brings us into Kev world. Nice. Yeah, I think when we talk about things like severity and confirmation of exploitation, CWE, affected systems, we're really getting into the full ecosystem of CVE and not just the CVE program, which is really, really kind of exciting territory. Awesome. All right, we're slowing down on responses, so I'm going to move forward. So we have a little bit of time. All right. So here's one of the big questions, right? This is a conversation question. And I want you guys to be honest. How can the CVE program better support CNAs? So I know a lot of folks said in the beginning that we were doing good. I'd like for us to be doing great. So what can we do? And I know there were a couple of folks who didn't feel so good about the program when we asked our first question about that. And so, and again, I can't see who says what. So please feel free to be honest about this. Show me what good to great looks like. That's a good point. Absolutely. Improve Vulnogram or provide a better tool. Okay.
Does that person have who talked about Vulnogram? Are there any specifics that you want to bring up that we can talk about? Because a lot of people on the call use Vulnogram, and we could get some either consent or dissent on comments.
Yesterday we were talking about the patch information being added to CVEs, and many CNAs didn't have CVEs that had patch information. Vulnogram doesn't have a default spot for that. You have to go in and manually edit the JSON to do that. If there's something you want in there by default, we kind of need the tools to show that easily.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Microsoft doesn't put the link to the patch, but based on that conversation yesterday, and looking at Jerry's tool, I'm thinking about now adding that, and hopefully, that's the kind of thing we can get out of these workshops. So that's great. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so I see quality audits on published CVEs and score them, mandate affected component versions. Okay. Vulnogram does so in the actual chat. Okay, all right. Be consistent, reliable. More global collaboration. I agree. That's great. Tool recommendations and best practices. Okay, transparency and timely resolution on disputes. More opinionated stances on what's a vulnerability and what's not. Much higher consistency in decision making and recommendations. Remove CWE as a mandatory field. Okay. All right. Okay. Quality audits on published CVEs and score them. Okay. Mandate affected components. Consolidate all running AI initiatives across different CNAs to get standardized results faster. Ooh, who put that in? Consolidate all running AI initiatives across different CNAs to get standard results. Would you talk about that? Would you be willing to chat about that? Oh, we are a quiet bunch today. Okay. I think that it's amazing. Honestly, some of the work that's being done with AI really, I think is pretty impressive. I was reading a paper the other day about that Google put out specifically about the defender's dilemma and how AI can help change the world positively instead of all the scary stuff. Also improve CNA status as a source of truth within their scope, possibly with requirements on CNAs. Need to avoid disruptions like what GCVE will unfortunately enable. Okay, so I guess that kind of goes to balkanization a little bit. Work with other geos to ensure CVE remains a global program. Yeah. Second vote for removing CWE. I guess we don't like CWE. Okay. Perhaps offer a service through a mentor to support that can assist very small CNAs. Okay.
Is the COOP mentoring program still going on? I don't know if Todd is here, but Todd used to run in the COOP working group, which is CNA working group. He used to run a mentoring program, but I'm just not sure what the status is. Does anybody know? I'll ask.
Don't know. Okay. Awesome.
COOP is still active, but I'm not sure the mentoring program that Todd used to run within the COOP is active. So I'll figure that out.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So again, for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Thank you everyone for putting your information in. All right. So we are almost to the end of our slides here, but there is something that I would like for us to all do. So as we think about kind of what the CVE program is, and we realize that we're somewhat on the precipice of a generational change. Specifically, I think about things like the AI situation going on globally, right? Not a huge fan of AI, but I'm also not afraid of it. And I think that it has the possibility to change the world in a better place. And so that is one example of kind of changing technology. So if we look at what the goal of the CVE program is, right? The goal of the CVE program is to identify and catalog vulnerabilities, but ultimately the goal of the CVE program is to have a common lexicon so that we can all be talking about the same thing. So I would say when we look at the photo or this photo here, we're looking at a bridge, right? The purpose of a bridge is to get you from point A to point B, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a bridge. It could be a helicopter. It could be a zip line. It could be, a path through the woods that would take longer, but of course. So I would say that if we could think about CVE in a different context, in a different way, how would we think about CVE? What would we consider? And so I would say moving forward, what should be the priorities of CVE? How do we think about CVE differently? What would we like to think of when we think of CVE? And again, this is an open-ended question. So type our answers now and go through. There we go. The framework for storing useful information to aid defenders in making decisions. Yeah, I think that's good. Quality, modernization, and governance focused on improving data quality, completeness and timeliness, accelerated modernization of infrastructure, and strengthening of governance. Good, good, very good. So ultimately, I think the idea of how do we speak in a common way should be the driving focus when I think about CVE. Ask the community if they'd like us to enumerate solutions, not vulnerabilities. Interesting. So again, we're getting back into the whole ecosystem concept rather than simply saying CVE program, it exists to identify and catalog vulnerabilities. And it breaks my heart to talk about the whole ecosystem because Art and I have had like a pact for the last 8 years that CVE is about identifying, cataloging vulnerabilities and no extra data. But I think, have we both softened on that a little bit, Art? I feel like we've both softened on that.
I go back and forth. I have, but I'm trying to figure out a way to assess which information elements are really, 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 really needed and for what purpose. So more to come on that.
Yeah, I read a really good psychological study a couple of years ago that really struck me, and kind of the point of it was that we always, when we're trying to improve something, we always bolt more onto it. We always talk about complexity and adding more. Oh, if we just added this, or if we just added that, if we just added this, and it really diminishes the value of simplicity. And so rather than adding things, maybe we should think about how do we simplify? How do we reduce complexity? How do we reduce friction? Because motivation often comes in things, we think about incentives all the time. Let's take a bug bounty program, for instance. Bug bounty programs exist, and the idea is that we're going to pay a researcher and they're going to give us the vulnerability that they found. And more money, more better. But that doesn't work for everybody. And sometimes we need to balance incentives with reducing friction, because there are some personalities that you can give them $1 million bounty and they're still never going to actually submit it to you because they don't want to write the report. So if you can reduce friction and make it so it's easy to submit the vulnerability to the vendor, they're much more likely to actually be willing to do that simply because you've reduced friction. So there's a balance between reducing friction and increasing incentive. And so I think about simplicity and how can we reduce complexity and add simplicity. So let's see some of the things that we've gotten in here. The source of useful warnings and software quality. CVE should adapt the VEX standard for vulnerability information. Improve data distribution. So NVD, something closer to real time and possibly peer-to-peer. Yeah, NVD, my heart is with NVD. I was very close to NVD for a very long time, and I know that those guys worked their little tails off. They were going through vulnerabilities that just as fast as they possibly could to get those out to everybody, and just scale just overran them, and it's just really unfortunate. But I know the NVD has always done as good as they can do, and better than we could expect. So CVE should go back to its roots, enumerating vulnerabilities. Extra is nice, but CNAs should publish directly, not add things to CVE records. My views have changed since the start of the session yesterday. Oh, interesting. I think we've got a real believer there, Art. Keep it simple, focused on being a dictionary. Keep a separate database or set up a separate database. Avoid adding everything to CVEs and making it a single point of failure. Okay, interesting. I did not expect that. I was expecting more CVEs, more data in CVE, not less data in CVE. That's interesting. I like that. Keep a core CVE record that can travel through the supply chain. Interesting. So we've got a lot of context here and a lot of comments. I'm seeing some trends here around, again, data quality. I'm seeing some trends around sharing information with the community and making things easier for stakeholders and CNAs to be able to use the program effectively. I'm seeing some trends on improved distribution, making things searchable, and again, making things easier for the community, modernization. And I'm seeing some comments here on keeping things simple, keep it core, get back to the one. What is it? Do one thing well. This is great stuff. All right, folks, we are reaching the end of our time, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So I would say the last question that I have for you today is, was this session worth your time? I know we didn't get a lot of rambunctious conversation, and that's perfectly fine with me. So I think we got some really good comments, and we've got to get some good comments in the chat. I think we highlighted a lot of people's concerns. Okay. All right. So with that, I believe my time is up at 12:10 and it is 12:08. So I would say, does anybody have any last comments that they would like to come off of mute and say? This is your moment to shine, but you only have 2 minutes. So, okay. All right. Well, then I'm not hearing anybody come off of mute. It looks like for the majority of folks, this was a valuable use of their time. Some folks, maybe not, that's okay. I appreciate that you're still with us. Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thanks, Katie. That was great. And it was very different from yesterday, which I think is great as well.